I'm your host, Dave Meyer, and I have an absolutely fantastic guest host with me today here, and wanted to kind of give us a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. First, we are live on Zoom, so folks that have joined us on Zoom, you're welcome to ask questions as we go through today's event via either chat or the Q&A tool. I believe that chat is now enabled. We had to fix some settings inside of our Zoom account to enable chat during live webinars, but I think that is set. So go ahead and give me a test if you wouldn't mind. Someone, either Elliot, Maggie, Mike, or any of our other attendees, go ahead and drop me in a note to just tell us who you are and where you're watching from. And we will be taking Q&A live during today's event. And for everyone that registered, we also have a list of your questions that will be interspersed, as well as just kind of handling as we go through today's event. So, but if you do have something in line, I'll be keeping track of questions. And Craig also has an open window with the chat in there too. So
looks like it's working. I see a note from Mike and from Elliot.
Beautiful. Perfect. Thanks to you both. As we get started, I just want to give you a couple of little bitty details. First, as you're wondering who the heck these guys are, I, of course, am Dave Meyer, the president of BusyWeb. We've been doing these webinars. I was just musing with Craig as we got started. This is probably well into the 400s for Busy Webinars. We used to do them weekly for a long time, and then we settled into monthly because it seemed like everybody was going through webinar fatigue. And I think this is a good cadence just to catch up. And we do have something live every week because we are now dialing it in on our podcast. The Dial It In podcast is available now. And we've got, I believe we just published number 12 for our podcast, and that's going live every week. So actually 3 times a week, or 3 times a month, I should say. And then the 4th week is Busy Webinar Week. So there's no podcast this week, in favor of, we figure you might want to just hang out with us live. And then we are, of course, a sales enablement and marketing agency that focuses on all of the things that drive revenue and traffic to a business and help you convert. We do that through tools like HubSpot and all of the things with Google. We have like 180 different certifications in HubSpot, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, and others. And we really take this seriously. Our team is located in Minneapolis, a suburb of Minneapolis called Champlin. And we have a few folks in Wisconsin, but we've been doing this. It'll be 25 years next year. So that's us. And then I'm super excited to invite Craig Key, CMO, growth coach, and pro dad. And you have no idea how pro of a dad he is, and maybe he'll share a little bit about that. So Craig, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's get started.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Dave, for having me. It's an honor. And yeah, I'm a fan of BusyWeb and the work you're doing and the content you and Trigby have put out. So I hope I can meet the mark of quality to that content library. So yes, I've been a marketer for most of my career, which is more years, or I might have to start measuring in decades than I'd like to admit. And I've been a marketing leader, executive leader, CMO at small companies, growing high growth startups, including Bite Squad here in the Twin Cities, and then actually ultimately at a public company, the company that acquired Bite Squad, I ended up being the marketing leader there as well. But my passion is actually in coaching, founders, marketers at a kind of a small but ready to grow business, and really sort of being the bridge between, small to medium sized company that might have a marketer or two, and, the size of company that would have a full on team and would have a CMO and directors and managers and all that stuff. So that's really my passion, is trying to find that kind of ready for growth business, who just needs some confidence and some tactical and tools to get things growing. And then, yeah, I have 5 boys at home, and their ages are between 5 and 10, which means I probably just lost most of you because you clearly can tell that I'm not a sane person. but that's a huge part of my life, and actually my coaching business and being out on my own this year, which was a new change for me at the beginning of the year, has been a really great a great lift for me as far as just my own my family life. So
Amazing.
I'm here.
And all around great guy.
Oh, thanks, Dave.
It's been a delight having you around with us to brainstorm in the hallways and to launch a couple of side projects, which I'm sure we'll be excited to share in the next couple of months.
Yeah, absolutely.
So without further ado, let's dig in, Craig, and let's get started. What do marketing leaders want? I don't know.
Yeah, so if you can imagine the metaphor of like, I imagine what it would be like to be that marketing director or VP or CMO. And I imagined those things as I was coming up. I thought, well, it must feel so good and it must feel this, right? And I will tell you, there's one word that I think marketing leaders want more than anything else. I'm giving you a hint here. Does anyone want to guess what marketing leaders want? Don't all chat in at once.
Yeah, I was never really all that good at the fill in the blanks thing. I'm thinking Vanna needs to help us.
Yeah, I'll give it 5 more seconds. Anybody want to take a guess?
Hit us in chat. What is it? What do marketing leaders really want? Drum roll. Boom.
Oh, Mike, you nailed it.
Oh, wow. Right there, right at the buzzer.
I suspect Mike might be really good at Wordle or watches a lot of Vanna White. Why can't I think of that show? What is the show?
Wheel of Fortune?
Thank you, Wheel of Fortune.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe both. Okay, so I have to admit, when I was I'm just going to say big shot, which is funny to me because if you know me, you know that that's not who I really am. But when I have this title, I am the Chief Marketing Officer. I'm leading marketing at a exciting company or a public company. You know what's terrifying is making bad decisions. And marketers probably don't want to tell you that. And all of us do. We want to feel like, no, we've got it all figured out. We earned this position. We grew into this title. We earned every ounce of it. Mm-hmm. But honestly, if you're a marketer, especially if you're in marketing at a growth-focused company, a company with high expectations from ownership or from investors or from the markets on hitting certain growth goals, you're responsible for a lot of resources. I mean, anywhere between conservatively 5 and aggressively 20% of a company's revenue, mm-hmm. hence it sometimes more in a growth stage, goes back into marketing. And it can be the difference between, a company hitting its goals and being successful and not, right? Now, other things have to be good as well. But it's terrifying to think about, well, I've got hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars worth of resources at my disposal. I better make a good decision, mm-hmm. right? Yep. And so we all want confidence, all right? And I think data in this age has become almost, I'm going to say, a proxy for confidence. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what I mean. If you want to flip to the next slide. So I think it's really easy sometimes to substitute data for confidence. Mm-hmm. And what I mean is, look, marketing is always about art and science, right? Always. Whatever the goals are, whatever you have to accomplish, you're going to have to make the math work. So the science part has to be there. You have to have controlled experiments where you're learning, where you're hitting numbers and what you're getting in return for your efforts or your expenditures is more valuable than what it costs to do it, right? So the science part, the math part always has to be there. It's also about art. It's also about strategy and understanding who your audience is and what makes them tick. And sometimes there's even some sort of instinct or gut level decisions that have to be made. And that's really scary, right? And so what we do is we try to get to the charts. Now, some of us, I will say, some marketers have a better instinct than I do for the creative side of life.
Mhm.
And so they might naturally, if they get cornered or if they feel pressure, they might naturally go to the creative side of their brain and try to create their way out of this corner, right? My tendency, and I think a lot of marketers' tendencies, it is actually to go to the math side of my brain. And I go, okay, if I just pour through enough charts or tables or infographics or spreadsheets, I will find the answer to my marketing problem, right? And the truth is, you have to have both, right? Always you have to have both. But there's no shortage of this stuff. I mean, these are dashboards with, here's your lead gen, here's your funnel, this is your cost per click, and this is your trending over the
Mhm.
last 5 weeks and your geographies, right? There are dashboards galore. If you are a marketer and you have been alive in the last 10 years, every single service that you have ever worked with, vendors, partners, agencies, even, they all want to show you their proprietary dashboard with charts and
Mhm.
widgets and isn't this cool, isn't this shiny? And what we end up doing almost every time is we end up going into these fancy dashboards, clicking on the table that we want the information from, and we download that spreadsheet, that CSV, and then we
Mhm.
put it into our probably very boring report that we have to give to our CEO. Um, so we use all these dashboards, but we end up having to bring all this data in someplace else and kind of move it around anyways. So I'm going to talk about the difference between what I will call external data and business data. Okay. So, oh, thanks, Dave. So external data, and increasingly now with AI and with some of the kind of the more set it and forget it ad products that are out there from Google and Facebook and others, they want you to feel like it's like a turn by turn directions, right? So it's
Mhm.
like, hey, Google will tell you, if you just bid 18% more on this keyword, you're going to get this many more clicks.
Mhm.
Facebook will tell you um, you've got too many ads in this ad set or not enough ads in this ad set. So add more creatives and we're going to have better performance. And, you could stack up, like I've got two here, but you could stack up turn by turn directions from Google and what they're telling you, turn by turn directions from Facebook, one from LinkedIn ads, one from, Microsoft ads, and like any other, platforms that you're working with. And
Mhm.
they might all be giving you different directions. You know, um, one's telling you to keep going for 5 miles. One's telling you you're almost there. Take the frontage road, get off.
Mhm.
Um, and I have found, these crazy making experiences where I have won on my external data, meaning I had a great victory. We lowered CPCs, we reduced our cost, our customer acquisition cost on Google and Facebook at the same time. And then our business data reflected something opposite, right? So if turn by turn directions are that's the metaphor for what each channel's data wants to give you. The metaphor on the right is, this is probably new to many of you who aren't older than Dave, but that's called a map. They were made from paper in ancient civilizations. And then that's a compass. And, on a map and a compass, you don't have turn by turn directions. You have to have a bird's eye view, and you have to say, I'm here, and I have to plot my way to get to here. And you have to mark the distance traveled between the starting point and finish line. And a compass is going to tell you, am I going the right direction or am I not going the right direction? Right. And there are no more complicated factors than that. You have a map, you have a compass, and you're trying to get from your starting line to your desired finish line. So
Right.
I've experienced successful turn by turn directions. I lowered my Facebook costs. I improved my Google conversion cost and CPCs. And my overall cost per new customer went up. How is that possible?
Mhm.
Well, it turns out Facebook really, really likes to serve ads to the people who were already browsing your site. So if you're not careful about, putting a limit on retargeting or,
Mhm.
things like that, shopping cart retargeting or just browsing retargeting, they're probably going to take credit for a lot of ads or a lot of sales that were going to happen anyways.
Right.
Google, similarly, they might really, really like it to spend money on searches for your brand, for example. And so if you're not careful, you're going to see all kinds of improvement on your external data metrics. And you might actually be spending more money to serve more ads to the people that were already going to purchase anyway, and actually losing incremental customers that might have looked more expensive on paper.
Mm-hmm.
So the metaphor here is that we have to look at things from a blended basis, right? So the next slide, I give a few more examples of what some of these might look like. So external data might be its impressions. It might be, your engagement rate. There's this idea called brand lift. I'm sorry, but a quick tangent. When I was on the agency side, we had a lot of campaigns they were called brand campaigns. By the way, I believe in brand. I'm a huge proponent of the idea of a brand. I can go on a tangent about that.
Mm-hmm.
However, in the world of digital media, there are millions of dollars spent to serve banner ads on the internet to people. And then to have someone with some name credibility like Nielsen or Qualtrics or some other company like that serve more banner ads to more people, and ask them, have you heard of this brand? And to try to show you a difference in like brand lift and whatever. And we used to crush it on brand lift. We used to have this was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And we would bring it to our clients. Hey, look, our new banner ads had a 30% lift on brand lift over your old banner ads from that other agency.
Mm-hmm.
And our clients would just kind of look at us like, like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, and it would drive me crazy. Same thing like engagement rate or CPC, CPA, your ROAS. Again, we would crush it in the assignment that we were given as a digital agency. And with our perspective, we thought, well, our clients should just be jumping through the roof about what we're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's because we were looking at this one turn-by-turn direction thing, and we couldn't actually see the compass or the map. And sometimes our client's business was going down, or other things were happening. Whatever we were doing in that one data source was a kind of a drop in the bucket, or it wasn't actually as helpful as we thought it was. So I like to talk about what matters to the CEO. Have you ever tried to like bring how many impressions you delivered to a CEO of a growing company?
Right. Or should you?
Care.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, for the most part, any of these metrics that marketers will pour over, and I'm not saying you shouldn't focus on these. If you are a domain expert in Google Ads, of course, you're going to be watching your CPCs, your CPMs, you're going to be making optimizations. However, what you have to bring to the CEO is, this is where we started. We're going in this direction, and we're headed towards this trajectory. So those are going to be metrics like revenue, cost, true cost. So that could be cost of the media that you're buying. It'd be cost of your team members, your headcount, your agencies, your hosting, like all that. Like, what is it costing truly? How many customers do we have? Do we have more or less? Are they buying more? Average purchases are up or deal size is up. What's the lifetime value of one customer? There's a new metric that I see a lot called MER, media efficiency ratio. So what is the overall ratio of the revenue that we're getting and the dollars that we're spending? A similar one would be blended CAC. What's the overall ratio of dollars spent to new customers? What's the cost per new customer on a blended basis? So when I moved from the agency side to the client side, those are the questions that I would be asked, and that's what I was expected to deliver. Mm-hmm. And it's hard. It's really hard. There are no cheats for improving the overall blended metrics of a business, right? And usually spending more money on brand terms or retargeting or in any of the kind of tricks that we weren't trying to trick our clients, but I think I see them now as something just not nearly as valuable.
Right.
Any of those kind of old tricks up my sleeve, they didn't move the needle nearly as fast as I wanted them to, or as my leadership wanted them to. But it did force us to make better decisions in a holistic way. So, okay, if these are the metrics we have to, meet, we have to design experiments in ways that we'll actually learn something,
Right.
which means you can't count on a banner ad survey machine that's going to tell you, that this many people are more likely to know about your brand now. You probably have to build a laboratory. You probably have to say, okay, we're going to divide up our market in these ways. We're going to experiment with this mix of tactics in this segment. You can do it by state, by country, by vertical, whatever makes sense for your business. We're going to experiment with a new thing over here, and we're going to have a control group so we can see how these are working. And you have to look at total business metrics, blended metrics. One thing I will say too, if you are on the marketing or agency side, you need to share this information, and that seems a bit scary sometimes. Well, we want our digital agency to have access to the digital tactics, but we don't want them to have we can't give them our sales metrics. And my answer to that would be, then why do you have that partner? If their job is to move the needle for you revenue wise, and I'm telling you that they should be moving the revenue metrics, the business metrics, right? And I think you hopefully agree. Nobody's shouting in the chat that I'm crazy. So if that's the case, and you're trusting them to spend your resources, money, ad dollars, whatever, well, give them the whole picture so that they and you can together design an experiment that is proven to move the needle or not. Okay, I'm on a little bit of a high horse here and I should move on. But to the agencies, please don't bring soft metrics to the CEO and expect high fives. Like, you should be hungering to move the business needle for your clients. And if you're not, and if your whole focus on reporting is around your CPC, CPM, ROAS, right? Even though those are performance-based metrics, you really need to, if you want to be indispensable, right? If you want to be a linchpin, you have to understand what is it doing for the overall business. Okay.
Yes. And before we move on, I do want to editorialize just a second, because the difference between the external and internal or in business data is something that we battle all the time, and that we have to, like, I'm in sales conversations all the time with CEOs, with owners, with marketing managers, and they're all jaded for a good reason, because they've been getting goofball metrics on their marketing in the past.
Yeah.
And a big part of what I do is we go in and we analyze and we say, okay, here's how many clicks that you've gotten, but what does a click actually mean? Or, yes, your SEO rankings are improving, but they're improving on your brand. And if somebody wants to know your brand, or if they know your name, they're just going to type that into Google and they're going to find you anyway. So who cares, right? So you have to focus on the data that actually means something. So
right.
that's huge. So let's move along and talk about how to collect some of that data. So
yes. Okay. So I'll get off my high horse, and I want to show you my favorite data aggregation tool. This is going to be exciting for all of you. There it is. It's a spreadsheet. Yeah.
Oh.
You ever seen one of these? Yeah. That's a Google sheet. Now I'll go into detail about this Google sheet maybe in a little bit, but this particular Google sheet is going to give me information about my customers, about my sales. It's got my forecast baked into it. You can't see all of it, but I even have some of my advertising costs baked in. And this particular sheet is something that every morning when I wake up, it's just updated. It's just there. It's ready for me. So I think that's kind of magic. But to back up, to talk about spreadsheets, we should first talk about dead sheets. Okay, so again, for those of you who are younger than Dave, spreadsheets started on paper, and they looked like this picture on the left, and they were these rows and rows and rows and columns and columns and columns of whatever the person writing needed to tabulate. Often it was an accountant, it was some sort of ledger. And so just like with modern spreadsheets, you're putting, here's all your labels on column 1. Here's the numbers you need in column 2. You need to tabulate those, or you need to multiply them by something in column 3. And it is a large way to organize a lot of data. And then we have this huge advancement from that left picture to the middle picture, which is that the math part was done for us. Okay, so there's an early spreadsheet. By the way, I didn't even look at like what this is from a Google image search, like muck rake, buzz cut, toad. Okay, sorry. I should have looked more closely, but the huge lift from the left picture to the middle picture is that the math is done for us. We don't have to tabulate it by hand or keep numbers in our heads. The math is done automatically, which was a huge lift. And then from that middle picture to Microsoft Excel, or a modern version of Excel there, we get font colors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, there's more stuff too, but like
Right.
the way people use spreadsheets today, most people, is kind of the same as the way we use spreadsheets. Like in that middle section, we just have like prettier spreadsheets now. And that drives me crazy because spreadsheets don't have to be dead. They can be alive. They can be like, we live in an age of connected data. Everything else in the world is connected. And to have spreadsheets that are not, where someone is downloading a report, exporting to CSV, pivoting it, bringing it in, like layering it over, like that kind of manual labor on spreadsheets, which if you're not doing this as a marketer, somebody on your team is. And if that's not happening, I don't know, you don't have enough data-driven folks in your organization, in my opinion. But that manual labor is mostly like it doesn't have to be so manual. So my favorite thing on the planet is when we make a live spreadsheet. So we connect data sources, right? Third-party sources that have the actual source of truth of my sales, my customers, my marketing channels, advertising channels, whatever that might be, my website analytics, and I bring them into a live spreadsheet. So again, I won't go, too deep into this one, but they can be pretty too. Like they don't have to look just like spreadsheets. But in this case, I've got kind of that lower right graphic there is cohorts of customers, and then what has their repeat rate been for a certain client. So over time, how many more orders are we getting in week 1, week 2, week 3, et cetera. And then we can, aggregate that into a simple, kind of color-coded dashboard, or this, I'm using color gradients here to show, higher or lower numbers over time. In this case, we're trying to look at, something like retention. The first time I had one of these in a live environment, I was like, this is so amazing. I don't have to, like, if I'm really, really curious about a program I'm running, an experiment we're doing, whatever, I used to, every morning, first thing, I get in, okay, I got to go download from this thing. I might have my Google Sheet template all set up already, but download from this place, go over to this data source, download that, put it together, pivot it. And it's like 15 minutes just to know, how did we do yesterday? Or how are we doing this week? Mm-hmm. As opposed to like, you just open the sheet and it's alive. Okay, so there are a lot of folks that will hand you a sales pitch about how to do this. And I will tell you, it doesn't have to be as complicated as maybe the internet might want you to believe. If you want to look at the next, or Dave, if you have a question, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, so we do actually have, like, as we get into this phase of sharing, I know some of the folks that are online, they were kind enough to submit questions, and like one of the questions that I think it was Maggie submitted was, there's so many reports and things that you can do inside of like a HubSpot or any other tool, really. How do you actually categorize that or start to grab it and use it? And I do have one question for a follow-up with Elliot, who I know is here, and he talked about big system versus tiny system. And if you can tell us a little bit more about that in the chat. More, I'd love to dig in more on that as we go. So
Elliot, I'd love to know, any more details on, big versus tiny. And what I will say is, if you start Googling things like data warehouse, so this is in the world of like a data warehouse, right? Mm-hmm. You've got this warehouse, sometimes that means there's a whole team of people that are managing this data warehouse, and in large enterprise companies, that makes total sense. Doesn't have to be like that, right? Even though every single salesperson from every logo on this slide would love to give you their sales pitch. All we're really talking about at a basic level, especially for something as simple as I use Google Sheets a lot. People in finance hate Google Sheets, and most of this stuff is applicable to like Microsoft Excel as well. You can do connected sheets with Microsoft. It can look a little bit more like this next slide, which is like, okay, you have a few places where your business activity is living at an original source of truth. So maybe that's your CRM. Maybe you've got some sort of resource planning system, accounting system, and maybe you've got, again, advertising channels or email database, whatever. Like you have these places where the original source of truth that goes into the costs and the revenue and the customers and all that stuff happen. And you need a place to connect that. This idea of a data warehouse, just think of it as a connector that can then bring it out to your reports. So your reports might be on a spreadsheet. They might be on a dashboard, a Google Data Studio or Looker Studio, a Tableau dashboard, whatever your reporting choice is. And I think a lot of folks, we all have these data sources, whether we've thought about each one of them or not. We all have sources of truth for our business. Most of us are pretty familiar with some reporting functions of some sort. Again, it's often a Google Sheet or a spreadsheet or a PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to focus just on that middle one. Like, how do we connect the data sources to these reporting systems? I'll give you a sort of easy and still pretty easy, but not nearly as complicated as that last slide that we just looked at. Okay, so easy. Next slide. There we go. Okay, so the simple way to connect. Oh, yep. Whoa. Move back.
What happened?
One more. I don't know. There we go. That's it. So the simplest way, I think, to connect some sources of truth, especially if you're operating in a highly digital world, you're an e-commerce provider, or you're using a modern CMS like a HubSpot, or you're using even like a QuickBooks online type, like cloud-based, enterprise or business tools. Supermetrics and funnel.io are really simple. And these are basically, you don't even need a database. These do all of that work for you, where you would look at the different plans. You tend to pay per channel. So that's, for 1 or 2 channels, these are pretty good. If you have 3, 4, 5 channels, maybe some obscure channels, sometimes you have to get onto like a more expensive tier, but somewhere between, $100 a month ish, maybe a little bit more from there. 100 to 200 probably gets you started. And then you're going to be able to pipe these sources of truth from your business out into something like a spreadsheet, Excel, Google Sheets, or even like a Looker Studio, Data Studio type place. A slightly more robust way to do this, and this is how I've tended to work with most of my business and my clients, is that you do have a database connector. It's called the ETL, extract, transfer, load. That is as technical as I understand it, and I am not a technical resource, by the way. But to do this, you do have to have a little bit of knowledge around databases. And again, I have done this by myself, and I'm not a technical resource. I don't have a computer science background. Right. I can't even really write SQL code. I can Google it or use ChatGPT to figure some things out. But if you have the technical capabilities to, install a Google Analytics pixel on a website or some other sort of very simple web-based technological feat, you probably can do this. And so I like Stitch is one that I've used quite a bit. And then there's one called Fivetran that I've heard really good things of. I have not tried it yet, but I hear great things about those too. And so in this case, you're going to have a database, Google BigQuery, Amazon Redshift or something. And then you're going to use one of these to connect any of your data sources. So unlike the pay per channel simple methods, you're probably going to be paying for like rows of data, and it'll be in the millions. So it like, I think Stitch is like 5 million rows of data per month for $100. And negligible server costs. Like like that would cost you, I don't know, a few dollars from Google BigQuery as a database. So it's a little more work to set up, but it's a bit more robust. And then you can use either Google Sheets has, direct integrations. You have to have an enterprise account for that, but it's great. I love it. It's my favorite setup. Again, you could be piping that database into a Tableau dashboard, Google Data Studio, any of those kind of reporting tools. And again, it's like once you understand, okay, I have all these sources of truth, I need to pick a connector, and then I have these reports, you start to think about reports differently. And now you just go, okay, I'm going to take this report that I have to make every month, and I'm going to make it live. And I'm going to change some things because I actually want to see a few things daily. And if it's not any more work for me to build this report out monthly automatically, and then I could copy a version of it and make it daily, why wouldn't I do that? So yeah, that is sort of these are the easy buttons, I would say, that don't require extreme technical resources. And just the difference between a dead sheet reporting world and live sheets or live reports that are custom to what your business really needs to look at and monitor is really night and day. And I think that can give us a lot more confidence than, again, the flashy, shiny widgets and charts and dashboards that all of these other companies might offer. But they might not be giving us holistic, blended sources of data across all of our, all of our systems in one place.
Right. But I know we want to set aside some time for Q&A. So this is the idea of collaborating with, different data sources or having different things kind of subsumed into other tools and collecting it in one big spot. I like to think of myself as a marketing geek, and I really never seen the level of data. If I go backwards to your sheets that you were running inside of like this example, that's it gives you a whole bunch of different inputs, and it actually creates actionable data out of that.
Yeah.
So let's go into a little bit of Q&A, and before we go full on into Q&A, because I'm going to stop the screen sharing to go into Q&A to let people actually ask questions. And by the way, if you want to ask live and just talk, go ahead and raise your hand in Zoom and we'll activate your audio. We won't do video. So if you like me, if you need to do your hair before you get on camera, it's no big deal. We'll just turn on your mic. But before we do jump over, I did want to share up that if you're concerned about your data and you want to clean it up, especially in your CRM, we have a CRM cleanup checklist that I'd love to share with you. And that's at bit.ly/CRM cleanup, CRM-cleanup. So go ahead and buck that in. If you do want today's slides to get more access or to see some of the tools that Craig was looking at, you can just email me or respond to the registration tool and ask for that. But go ahead and note that in. I'm actually going to copy bit.ly/CRM dash, I misspelled it, CRM dash cleanup into chat for everyone. But let's go live or full on, and then you can actually see us, see our beautiful backgrounds and stuff. But there were some interesting questions that we had from the submissions, and I do want to give a special nod to everyone that's here. So since we have some of the folks here, the first one is, I do a ton of reports in my company, and where do I even start with collecting data? Instead of just having 7 different spreadsheets that you're trying to connect, or not even connect, just look at and share with your management. Are there some shortcuts to starting to consolidate data into a useful platform?
Yeah, I think so. I think honestly, it would be start with that right-hand column. Remember, there's the external sources and internal sources. So reverse engineer your reports from what you really need to deliver on, right? And it's probably some combination of revenue and cost and customers and those right-hand metrics, maybe by vertical, maybe by region, maybe by sliced up in some way. Go design your ideal table, like with just in a vacuum. You don't have to wire it all up, but then ask yourself, so let's say that what I really need to see is I've got 4 regions that are really important. Our main metrics are the customer acquisition cost blended and the lifetime value blended and the ratio between those two. Okay. So in your mind, what are all the data points that would go into that type of report? Build that table in a vacuum. And then you're probably going to go, okay, so what data sources would I need to make this happen? Well, I need my customer count and my lifetime value out of my CRM. So I'm going to have to go connect to my CRM somehow. I need my advertising channels to be, it's mostly Google and Facebook. So those I can get from an API. We also do some manual stuff through direct mail, and there's no API for that. So somebody on my team is going to have to fill in a Google sheet for me, and that'll be one of my live sources, a manual Google sheet that someone, or a form or something that maybe your vendor fills that in every week in this format, right? And then you, once you can map that all out, you can start to just, okay, now I'm going to do a one big fat join or VLOOKUP or, get nerdy with how to combine these things. And now I can show you by region, blended customer acquisition cost and, lifetime value.
Excellent. Okay, perfect. Second question. So I'm looking to gather data from Google Analytics, Microsoft Advertising, and make it add up to what we see on the back end of our CRM and our website.
Yeah.
How do you, why is data always different between them? And B, is there a way to true that up?
Yeah. So I'm going to answer B first. There's probably not a way to true that up. And so to try hard to make it, let's say today you're at 90%, like you're matching 90%, sometimes less, maybe 80%. To get from 90% to even 95% might be incredibly painful, and you're still not going to get to 100 ever. So what you have to think in terms of is that, okay, on your blended metrics side of things, right? They're kind of agnostic about what's Google Analytics saying, what's Microsoft Ads saying, et cetera, right? So you have to be designing experiments that you can control outside of those factors, right? So again, maybe it's geography is an easy one. I'm going to test one idea campaign in a certain geography, and I'm going to test a separate one in a separate geography. And I know that those two geographies don't overlap at all. So there's no chance that I'm getting blended data there, right? When I look at my channel metrics, my external metrics, I am making in-platform optimization. So Microsoft Ads is good at telling you, amongst all the other Microsoft ads, which campaign is doing better, which campaign is doing worse, right? So as a measuring stick against itself, these platforms are really, really important. And that's how we make good optimizations. But don't try to kill yourself to make, I saw 15 customers from Microsoft Ads. Google Analytics told me that there were, that there was only 10 customers from Microsoft Ads. And Google Analytics is telling me I had 30 customers total, but I actually had 40 customers last month, right? Like those things are never going to tie. And so it's an exercise in futility to try to get to perfection there. Your reports are not we're not accountants, right? Accountants need to tie to the penny. Marketers need to make better decisions tomorrow than you made yesterday. Nice. So look at these as, again, this is directions. This is a map. So move towards the right direction instead of trying to be like, I think it's like, how many inches is it between this hilltop and that one? And it doesn't, you know what I mean? Not important. Keep making forward progress. That's important.
Excellent. Mike asked about combining customer and prospect data. Are there any tricks on how to really, how do you weight that?
Yeah.
Right? How do you import that? I mean, it's easy to do inside of a HubSpot, or if you have a CRM that's working for you, and it's just a matter of organizing it so that it's useful. But any tricks on how to properly weight things
Yeah, I
and
feel like you might be able to teach more on this than I do. Typically, a customer you have more information on, and a prospect you have less, right? A customer you're going to have their full name, address, business. If it's a B2B, you might have their credit card on file. If it's e-commerce, you might have their purchase history, right? So you just have more data. Now with B2, with prospects, you might just have a name and an email, or a name and an email and the source that they came in on, right? And which kind of hook or white paper or form they filled out. So in my experience, again, you might not have a perfect tie. What you might do is go look for in your customers, do your 80-20 rule and sort for the most valuable ones. And then see what commonalities you can find there, and if you have data all the way back to how they found you in the first place to when they were prospects,
right.
and Dave, you could give a masterclass on that.
Right.
Like that might give you a good hint about which prospects you should really be paying a lot more attention to.
Right.
Dave, what else would you add there?
Yeah, I think again, it goes back to having the right tools. If you have attribution reporting inside of like a HubSpot, you can just tie that all the way back to say this tweet influenced X amount of revenue, right?
Yeah.
Or, this customer journey included all of these touch points. And you can also go back and say, yeah, not only did it win us this customer, but it won us additional business from this customer by looking through it. You do have to, at some levels of these things, you have to pay to play a little bit. So you need to have like the free version of HubSpot is fantastic as a CRM, but it doesn't let you do any of the advanced analysis.
Wow.
So that's one of the things that's useful in bringing that in. But for most of our clients, the big things that they're looking for are, how can I tell that my data or that the things that I'm doing is actually impacting revenue, and how do I roll that up in a common sense way? So I think that leads to probably our final question. And again, if you have additional questions for the folks in the chat, I'm not seeing any questions on our live YouTube channel yet. I did post there and ask for the chat. So if you are there, go ahead and chat it. Or if we miss you after today's event, go ahead and send me an email at dave@busyweb.com. But for our roundup, you mentioned a couple of times that you self-taught a lot of this stuff. And my big question there is how did you find this stuff? Like, where do you Google? What do you do? And as a B question, I'm always good at adding too many questions to any given question, but can AI help with all of this stuff? Like,
Great question. Yeah.
Magical things that you've been able to do.
Yeah.
So tell me more.
Okay, so I'll answer A in a vacuum, but because most of this I learned before I had access to tools like ChatGPT. So honestly, like being a good Googler it's the life skill that I honestly is like it's really important at every job level. Like my wife actually once worked at a job where her focus was about accounting and kind of bookkeeping, pretty rote work, yet she was about 20 years younger than everyone else in that office. And so when there was a problem with IT or with a tax question or with a insurance question, like she was good at Googling it. And I think that's, I don't want to get ageist. It's really not ageist, but some of us, naturally, we learned how to do that well, right? So again, the skill set of, okay, I want to have a live, I want to connect my Facebook ads and my lead data from HubSpot into a Google Sheet. Like there's a handful of Google queries you can make there, or hopefully I gave you a shortcut. Go check out Fivetran or Supermetrics or funnel.io. And they're going to have some tutorials and some step-by-steps, or there's a YouTube videos or whatever. Like we're like, okay, yeah, I can figure this out. There's definitely trial and error, right? So you just have to be comfortable with like, yeah, I'm going to try this and I'm not going to have a magic dashboard on day one. But be good at Googling it. And then, yes, AI is amazing. I could do a whole nother hour on that, but you would be shocked at like, you could ask ChatGPT to, I'm going to be sort of broad here, but you could say, help me write a Google app script that will connect to the Facebook ads interface and scrape and run, every hour to scrape my campaign ads data and pull it into Google Sheets. Now, today, if you tried that, I'd give it like a maybe 30% chance of working the first time. And if you really futzed with it for like an hour, maybe like a 80% chance that you could get it to work. But eventually, like that type of capability, I could actually see it replacing those connectors, because we'll all just be able to ask our AIs to just like, hey, wire up to connect into my Facebook and LinkedIn ads and pull in my customer data from HubSpot and put all that in my spreadsheet. And I think we're like months, if not a year or two away from that type of capability.
That's so crazy. So let me go back to screen sharing for a second, because I want to wrap us up, and I have a couple of little toys that I want to share as well. So as a reminder for everyone, go ahead and please download the CRM cleanup checklist at bit.ly/CRM-cleanup. If you want today's slides or to follow up, here's how to get a hold of me. Craig, your info, if it's okay to share that.
Craig.work is the way to find me, www.craig.work. That's the easiest way to connect with me.
And then I wanted to bring up a couple of small things that you can use right now in your daily life and in your data. So one thing you mentioned, Sheets. There's a template gallery of Google Sheets. So there's an entirely built system. If you want to build an analytics dashboard, hello, it's right there. You can just grab it for free off of Google Sheets, and that's at sheets.google.com. You need to have a Google Workspace account for some of these things, and some of them are purchasable. So the website,
and that one's actually Supermetrics, the one that you're hovering over.
That's
that one would do the work for you and connect up to like your data sources.
Bingo. So you can connect that right up, and then you've got that to build with, right? So there's also CRM reports. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. If you go on baby name analysis, you're not going to probably need that for business, but there's a lot of cool stuff that's available in here. So go ahead and check out google.com, as it's free. Anybody that has a Gmail account can get most of these. The second thing, we talked a little bit about AI, and especially if you're looking to get helpful information about, if you have HubSpot, which a lot of our customers and a lot of the folks that are watching today have, there's a chatspot.ai alpha project out there. If you go to chatspot.ai, you can connect your HubSpot account to this tool, and it is going to give you some bonkers tools to help you get set up. Craig chatted to everyone, bettersheets.co.
Yep. I just sent that to you privately. So
got it.
But here, I'll put it in the main chat. That's another one that's great for like self-taught Google Sheet kind of, nerdery here.
Perfect. But like one of the things that I like doing, we're looking for data, right? So individual research or web domain information. If I just search for like research inside of ChatSpot, I can find company location information, funding data, keyword research, PPC, all kinds of interesting stuff, right? So let's go into, I don't want to do funding data because I don't want it to come up with weird stuff, but PPC, right? So what PPC keywords does blah, blah, blah by? Let's just do, I don't know, usbank.com. So send prompt, and then it's going to think for a couple of seconds, and then it'll just give me all the keywords that company is buying. So MetaBank, US Bank Mortgage, they're spending $3.73 on that. So it's pretty advanced or pretty costly. $10 for Square readers. So they want to compete with Square card reader, $12.39. $31 on high risk credit card processing. So, you can kind of get an idea for what some of these things are doing. You can dig a little deeper and get more information. And I can just say, like, tell me more on any of these things, and it'll dig even further in. I can also use this to find information about companies that might be interesting to me. And with a single click, I can have that imported into my CRM. So if I find some prospects, I can just click a button. And again, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to have people's names pop up on here right now, but it'll add it to the CRM and give me a task to follow up. Or if I'm the sales manager, I can look for good leads for my sales team to connect. It'll load it into the CRM and I can automatically build it so that it reaches out to the salesperson that it's assigned to and gives them a task. So they log in the morning, they've got an email or a pop-up in their CRM to say, hey, give Bob Smith a call. He's actively looking for, whatever your company does. So that's pretty powerful.
Dave, can I throw a curveball at you?
Yeah.
Actually, we're going to throw it at ChatSpot. Can you ask it,
Yeah.
just say, why is the last one so expensive? And we're being intentionally vague here. We didn't say the high risk credit card one or the one that's 3166.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
ooh, okay. All right.
So, and again, this is an early alpha thing.
Yep.
So they're pretty good at kind of apologizing out. Here's better sheets.
Yes. This is one of my favorite tools. I became actually a lifetime member of this one, so I have access to all their formats, and I learned a lot about just automations, writing little scripts, and I think Andrew from Better Sheets is killer. So cool. Highly recommend that if you at all want to sort of improve your nerd skills on spreadsheets, especially Google Sheets.
Excellent. Well, we're at time. This went unbelievably fast. So Craig, thank you for making data interesting and fun.
Yeah, I hope it went fast for everyone else. Sometimes I look up and we've talked for an hour. So thanks for having me, Dave. And feel free to reach out to me, or of course to Dave with any questions.
Hit us up if you need more stuff. Busyweb.com/events for the next event. We've got all kinds of fun stuff coming up. What is our next event? BusyWeb. I got to type it in here because I have my thing open. BusyWeb.
You'll probably just have the AIs do it by then, so probably won't be you. It'll just be your robot.
Okay, so next up is finding your future markets using SEO. So how to do some of that research that we were just talking about. That's actually brilliant. So June 7th at 11 a.m. we're gonna be running that one. Get a hold of Craig at craig.work and let's stay in touch. Thanks, everybody. Hope this helped you generate buzz without getting stung. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.